I've actually avoided the topic of hygge on this channel because I feel like these days it's such a buzzword and everyone in this niche of kind of minimalism and cozy slow living talks about it all the time. And I feel like it kind of gets watered down, and I don't know if I really had anything new to say about it. But then I got to thinking about how I think about hygge a lot and creating a cozy, content feeling and atmosphere when I'm spending time at home. Or I just think about how can I inject more of that mindset, that feeling of contentment into my life. And I actually lived in Copenhagen for a while. Admittedly, it was a long time ago and it was for studying abroad in college. I know, kind of cliche, but I did spend enough time there that I really got, I think, a sense of the feeling of hygge. And maybe, being an American, I don't fully understand it, but I wanted to put my 2 cents in on what hygge means, or aspects of hygge that I learned from living in Denmark. First of all, don't be afraid to use the word. I feel like people are intimidated because it's hard to pronounce. I'm probably not pronouncing it even quite correctly, but it's spelled Hygge and it said hygge or hygge. I can't even quite say the vowel sound, but that's what it sounds like. It can be a noun, an adjective, a verb to refer to this sense of coziness, contentment. I think there's a feeling of safety to it, of sinking into the moment, the feeling of warmth when you're inside on a cold day. That to me is hygge. And I have to say, when I studied abroad in Copenhagen, I kind of got Copenhagen culture or Danish culture off the bat. It didn't seem that different from American culture, but that really is the value of spending months and months and months in a place, is really getting to know the nuances of a culture. Not that I know them perfectly or remember them perfectly, and I'm sure they've changed in the past over a decade, but I really got to see how Danish culture is actually quite different from American culture by being there and staying there for quite some time. And there were aspects of their lifestyle or how they socialized that I think really brought hygge to life. And a few things that I noticed that Danish people tended to do were to, first of all, have really long meals. When you invite someone over, when you have a big extended family meal or you have friends over, you take your time. Meals there last for hours sometimes. Whereas I think in American culture, quite often when we go to someone's house and we have dinner, we have a quick dinner over 45 minutes or so, maybe linger and hang out for a little longer, but then we go home. Or if we go out to eat, we're often there for like an hour, or if we're really taking our time, maybe 90 minutes or something. But in Denmark, quite often meals really take their time. They can be 3 hours long, 4 hours long, 5 hours long, in really spending time together and savoring that time. And I think that slowness, that feeling of not being in a rush to get through the experience of sharing conversation and being together, that's a big part of what hygge means, at least to me. It's about not thinking about the next thing you have to do or tomorrow, but taking the time to be in the moment. And by not rushing, you get to take the time to ask the deeper questions about something someone's going through, or have those more thorough conversations, or even just more fun in that you can laugh more, you can be more in the moment when you know you have time. You're not in a rush to get out the door. Another thing I think Danes tend to do is to eat out less often and to eat in more, and to make those times of eating in more special. Like I said, they're longer, but they also really create an event of it. And another piece of this, I think, is lighting a lot of candles and having that feeling of just warmth and special time at home. It's really valuing the home and inviting people over to your space. And I think there's something intimate and close about having people in your own home and spending good time there. Having lamps that provide this warm, subtle glow, maybe having a fire on to create this physical warmth, and or candles if that's all you can do. It's just that feeling of, I'm at home and I feel good and I feel comfortable and welcome here. And what's funny is when I look back, I really only went out to dinner when I was in Denmark like a couple of times. Now, part of that was that I was really living on not much money because I was in college. But I do think that that is also more of the Danish way, more of the Hygge way, to spend time in and to appreciate even the banal, the ordinary, the things that you see every day, the space you're in every day, to sink into it and to enjoy it. And it kind of reminds me of, actually, when I was studying abroad, I went up north to Sweden to visit some extended family I had there, basically visiting this old couple with their cute little dog, and we spent time with them. They had a small home, but they had this beautiful guest house that we were able to stay in. My family joined me there because we wanted to have this kind of like family get together, and it was so sweet. We went to the house and they made Swedish meatballs. They lit candles and they had their little mini Swedish flag out. And that was actually a little mini Swedish flag that Ulla-Britta, the female of the couple, would bring with her everywhere she went. So we actually went out also to a restaurant with them. She brought the little Swedish flag and set it out for us eating at this beautiful minimalist restaurant kind of in the countryside. And then we went to the farmstead of where my kind of ancestors had lived and all of that. Ulla-Britta's husband brought his accordion and they played and they put down the Swedish flag on the table. And what was cool is other people owned the farm now. So these were just strangers letting us in with our extended family members who knew the area. And we just sat there for like a long time in this house and enjoyed ourselves. And I, as an American, felt like, are we intruding? Should we go? I don't know if you want us here. Is this weird? But here they were, playing music and singing and being in the moment. And I know that's Swedish, not Danish, but it still had that same kind of warm, cozy feel of sinking into the moment, welcoming people, and just enjoying. And so that is something that I try to inject into my own life, is just finding the time to sink into the moment, to invite people over, to have them over for hours, and, you know, sometimes even have long chats into the night. Now, lately, that hasn't happened as much with our baby. We just don't stay up late at all. We go to bed at like 8 p.m. now. But that is the idea of just enjoying being in the moment, feeling the warmth of being together and sinking into that feeling. And I also think that for me, this is part of what minimalism is about, actually. And I think it's interesting that Scandinavian culture tends to be more minimalist and simple. And I think it's because these two topics really fit well together. This idea of having less, appreciating the simplicity, and then also being able to sink into the moment and enjoy what is in this moment. Not the future, not the past, although you can reminisce and all that in those times, but to truly sink into the moment and to not let all of that stress, all of that noise get in the way of enjoying the moment and life. I think it works together. And even talking about this now, I have this cozy feeling. I'm thinking about how can I make that happen more regularly in my own life. Sometimes it's just about putting down the phone. It's about turning off the TV, lighting some candles, inviting close people over, taking time to have a long dinner with friends that's not rushed. It's about taking the time and space to really get to know other people and to follow up on their inner thoughts and what they're thinking. And it was kind of interesting. I'm actually officiating a couple of weddings this summer, but one of them, the couple came over this weekend for a few hours. We had dinner, and then I interviewed them about their relationship, and it was so cozy. We had the candles lit, and I was just asking them about what drew them to each other, why they think they work, how each of them were as children, you know, what their values are, what their hopes for the future are, what marriage means to them, all of these things about their relationship that normally, you know, you just don't take the time to ask, or you do ask one question, but then you don't follow up and ask, what do you mean by that? Tell me more about that. It was just this lovely conversation where I got to go really deep with them. And I just wish we would do that kind of thing more. I want to do that kind of thing more. I think, tend to be someone who's interested in other people and wants to hear their stories and ask those questions, but sometimes we don't really take the time to have those long, drawn-out conversations, maybe because it almost feels awkward to ask so many questions or to seem so overly curious. But I think that curiosity and taking the time to sink into someone else's story and their experiences is so valuable and so beautiful. And some of the things they said about marriage really kind of inspired me and made me want to think about things a little differently. And it helped me get to know them, I think, on an even deeper level. So yeah, I think Hygge is about taking that time to sink into the moment with people and to enjoy. Anyway, I also just want to say, in the spirit of being welcoming and warm, hi, I'm Aylin. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's also a great way to support the channel, as is hitting the like button. If you take a moment to do that, that would mean so much to me. So thank you for those of you who do that. And also just thank you for hanging out with me and watching. And for those of you who comment, sometimes your comments really get me thinking. So let me know your experience of Hygge. Maybe I have some things wrong about it, or you have more to add, so I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if there are any Danish or Norwegian viewers, or Swedish, since I mentioned Sweden too. But that's about all for today. Thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.